Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me, please. Just in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Let me just get you set up here so you can actually see me. And hold on a second here. What's going on? Okay. All right, gotta love technology. Okay, and I think we're good to go. Give me a second. And you should see me in a second, Maya. Can you see me? Oh no, my video is not showing up here. Let's see here. Huh. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my video. Okay, give me a moment. I'm just going to shut down and restart this so you guys can see me, okay? I promise it'll be worth it. Be right back. Okay, guys, I can't get the video working here, so I'll mute myself. So we're gonna have to go ahead and just do this without the without me on camera. So I apologize for that. Alrighty, so let me know. Can you guys see this right now? Can you see my screen? Okay. Perfect. Okay, let's get going. Thank you everyone for your patience. So I am Danielle Binns and you cannot see me and I'm so sad about that. I put makeup on for you and everything. I want to welcome you to this free webinar on picky eating. So let me just move this chat box out of the way. Let's see here. Okay. So today we're talking about the 10 proven strategies to improve your child's eating. And I've done this webinar a few times, so it's jam-packed hour. So I want you to sit back and relax. And by the end, you're going to think differently about how you feed your child. So, if you have any questions, just type them in the comment box. And as I start to go through some of the housekeeping, feel free to share your child's age and any worries you have with respect to their eating. It will help me understand who I am talking to. So as we go through the content, I've got a few surprises for you. And let's see here, if I can move this out of the way. So give me a second here, guys. Okay. So yes, I've got a few surprises for you, and we're going to get into some juicy details. And I want you to take some mental notes, but as for physical notes, I have done that for you, and I've created a checklist of every single one of the strategies we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll tell you how to get that at the end when we do our Q&A. So first, let's make sure you're in the right place, and the next hour is going to be super valuable for you. So you are in the right place if you have a little one who doesn't eat well and you're worried that he or she is not getting enough nutrients. You want to see them eat more than just the same 10 to 20 foods and just more balanced meals, not just bread and bananas. You are in the right place if it would mean everything to you if your child actually sat and enjoyed eating with you and was interested in the food in front of them. And then to that point, you're also in the right place if the anxiety rises before most meals. You know, mealtime should be a positive time when the family connects, but it's mostly, right now, it's just stressful. And here's the thing, guys, when we are stressed out, our digestive system stops working optimally. And that means we are not absorbing all of those wonderful nutrients that we need. So here's a refresher on what we're covering tonight. First, we're going to talk about the common myths we hear about picky eating and the things I was told by pediatricians and later learned was not true, and I learned that the hard way. Then I'm going to reveal 5 reasons why our kids are picky and how to fix that. And we'll do that with the 10 strategies that I want you to start trying at your next meal. So while random tips, work for many parents, some of us have fussier and more sensitive eaters who require a more phased approach. So I'm going to take you through those 6 critical phases to transform picky eaters into healthy eaters. And these are the same 6 phases that my online course for parents is built around. So I want to tell you about this amazing 6-week program called the Picky Eater Protocol. And we'll do that then. But also at the end, I will answer all of your questions and share your bonuses and surprises. So we'll also help you understand if your child is a picky eater or a problem eater. So stick around for those. Okay, so before we jump in, I have 2 quick questions. In the comment box, can you tell me if you've done anything to address your little one's picky eating? So go ahead, tell me in the comments, and tell me if you did, whether you saw any changes happen. Did picky eating start to resolve? And while you're typing away, I'm going to take a few minutes to tell you about me and why I'm here. Okay, I've got a few people commenting. Great. Let me know. I will look at those in a second. So first of all, I had a passion for health and nutrition for as long as I can remember. And it wasn't, though, until I became a mom that I realized I wanted to put more of my life into my passion. And so I had my first little girl, Sienna, and from the moment she was born, it was an emotional roller coaster. She was born at a mere 4.5 pounds and struggled to gain or to eat any adequate amounts. And I felt tremendous pressure as her mother, just trying to feed her because she was so tiny. When Sienna started solids, I thought things would get better, but they actually went backwards. It got so much worse. She hardly ate. She struggled to gain weight. And in fact, she wasn't even on the growth chart, if you can believe that. To top it off, the stress of her heart surgery. She had heart surgery at 4 months of age. Motherhood was not easy, to say the least. But I knew one of my only jobs was to nourish my child. And so when she ate so poorly, I felt like I was failing at motherhood. I remember sitting at the table, dangling toys in front of her uh, and playing my phone and just trying to sneak a spoon into her mouth at the same time. I was really willing to do anything to get her to eat better. And little did I know that I was actually making matters worse. So her pediatrician was helpful in many ways, as I'm sure yours is as well. But they provided some advice I just didn't feel good about being a certified nutritionist. Things like just give her whipping cream or take her to McDonald's and just give her what she needs or what she wants. It's fine. But I couldn't continue to let her eating consume us, and I didn't see anything changing. And I knew our approach could affect her relationship with food in the long term. I just knew too many people that had eating issues that stem from their childhood. So I started to study picky eating and receive certifications in children's feeding strategies. Once I felt confident enough with the strategies I had learned, I started to apply them with Sienna, and incredible things started to happen. Her appetite improved, distractions were no longer needed to get her to eat, and she was willing to try foods she'd never considered previously. And today she is anything but picky. I remember what it was like actually when we went to go see the doctor and they told me that her weight had improved dramatically. Sienna was doing so well that her specialist started asking me what I was doing differently. That's when I knew there was something here, and there was a strategy that was working way better than anything else I'd previously tried. I needed to share it with other parents so that they didn't struggle like I did for so long. So that's what I did. I quit my full-time career. I was with Microsoft at the time, and I started to support parents around the globe put an end to picky eating. So as a certified nutritionist and a picky eating expert, and more importantly, a mom who gets it, I know how emotionally draining it is when your child constantly says no to new foods. I also know what it takes to create a healthier eater using an approach that is supported by research. And that is why I'm sitting here with all of you. I was in your shoes and I want to help starting today. We've since had actually 2 other little girls after Sienna. So we have Naomi on the right and Mackenzie in the middle, falling over. And I have to say, things have been so much easier because this time around, I knew the right way to approach meal times. And while I haven't mastered bedtimes yet with 3 kids, meals are definitely going smoothly. So that is my story in a nutshell. Let's go back and just see what you're all saying about your own experience. So, oopsie, I see here that, so it looks like you guys, everyone here has tried something. You've either tried divided plates, you've tried giving options, giving the same meal, offering bedtime snacks, offering bribes and incentives and doing sticker charts, lots of things being tried. And kudos to you guys for putting that effort in. I know it can be exhausting. But it doesn't look like, it looks like most people have had some short-term wins and then kind of gone back to the same situation. So, I've learned, guys, that the best way to address picky eating is with a step-by-step plan that you can feel good about. It's a few, tricks that you see online and in blog posts, they do and can work for the short term. It's short-term success, but what we really want to see is change in the long term. So let's just dive in here for the content for tonight, starting with the 3 myths that you should know when it comes to picky eating. So number 1, they will grow out of it. How many of you have heard this? And it is, while most kids exhibit pickiness in their younger years, most grow out of the selective eating stage. However, 1 in 4 children, 1 in 4 is quite a bit, they do not grow out of this reluctance to try new foods. So research shows that how we respond to our kids now, especially under the age of 6 and 7, and especially under the age of 3, plays a huge role in their eating habits. The research shows that after the age of 3, it becomes more difficult to change our children's eating behaviors, and particularly once they hit the age of 6 or 7. It's doable, but it just requires more work because of their the cognitive changes that happen at those age transitions. So that's why it's important that parents are aware of how to manage mealtime behaviors today before those bad habits stick. And heck, I know I used the same, if I continued using the same approach with Sienna, I can confidently say that she and we would be in a very different place. Myth number 2, they won't starve themselves. And I'm sure you've heard this from your doctors or other parents, and I wish it was a fact, but it's really only true for about 95% of the population. The other 5% of children who have feeding challenges will inadvertently starve themselves to avoid negative feelings associated with food. In a child's mind, if something hurts, they just don't do it. And I know this is a downer slide, but my daughter, Sienna, was one of the 5%. And there are likely a few parents listening here who are in a similar situation. Sienna did have sensory and oral motor delays, but with changes around how we offered her food, everything improved, including her appetite. Myth number 3, they shouldn't play with their food. This is my 3-year-old a few years ago. This is Naomi. She was about a year old here, and she's putting hemp seeds up her nose, literally, in her ears, everywhere, throwing food on the floor. But you can have comfort in knowing that playing with food is a fabulous thing, and that eating comes first, manners come second. It's a really hard thing for parents, especially if we're clean freaks, to see our kids get messy. But I've learned through my studies and witnessing other parents and families, it is key. Mealtimes are an opportunity to teach our kids about food with all of their senses. I'm going to tell you a bit more about this in a few minutes. So now I'm going to tell you exactly how I helped my sushi-loving Sienna, here she is, loves sushi, going from almost starving to thriving. It's important to know why our little ones might be resisting anything other than their favorite foods. So tonight we're going to look at the 5 reasons our kids refuse foods and how to change that the right way. So first of all, our kids are working hard to be their own person. They want to tie their own shoes, to choose their own clothes, and even decide what to eat. They want control, especially after the age of about 12 to 18 months. And that is a big reason why our kids won't try new foods. Part of showing their independence is by doing the opposite of what we say, right? So if you suggest the blue sweater, they want the pink one. Or if you suggest the pink one, they want the yellow one. You really can't win unless you give them control at the right times. So whether it's saying one more bite or 3 famous words spoken by every parent, or insisting kids eat dinner in order to get dessert, research shows that 85% of us, parents or caregivers, try to control our child's intake at meals. This is especially true for parents with children on the ends of the growth chart. So we're more likely to pressure a thin, smaller child who's under the 10th percentile to eat more, and a larger child who's above the 90th percentile to eat less. Before I knew right from wrong, I was guilty of filling Sienna's fork with whatever food I thought she was lacking. I was the parent and thought I knew best. Well, research shows that the vast majority of typically developing children have an innate ability to self-regulate how much they need to eat. And even if it looks like to us they've eaten too much or too little, they will eat more protein when their body craves it, and they will stop eating if they're no longer hungry. That is if we allow them to make those decisions. And assuming there's no underlying issues, your child will eat the amount that is right for them. So this was one of the hardest things for me to do. Remember, I had a little girl who wasn't even on the growth curve, but I knew that pushing her to eat more would backfire. Research shows that if we pressure kids, there's a greater likelihood that they will be overweight in later years. And that's because they've always been told they need to eat more, have one more bite, and so on. At the table, what if we said something crazy like, "You don't have to eat this. Just come sit with us for a few minutes"? The less invested we appear in what they decide to eat, the more interested they will be to eat it because the control is theirs. So I'm curious, is there one food you would love to see your little one eat? Put it in the comment box. And I'm going to guess there's going to be a lot of veggies and meats. Okay, here we go. Meat, meat, meat. Ashley says meat. Victoria says sushi. It can happen, Victoria, I promise. I never thought my daughter would be a sushi lover. Meat, anything green, broccoli. Okay, this is exactly what I expected. I wish I actually could, I should have done a poll so you could have seen the results. It basically falls into a few categories. And spinach is another biggie. Yep. Now imagine the feeling of seeing your little one eat that piece of broccoli or meat or veggie for the first time and then asking for it. So one of my clients wrote me this after a few weeks of working together. She says, crazy how he's already eating better. Edamame is a new favorite food. And last night he willingly ate broccoli. It's been a year. 2 green veggies in the same meal. I feel like I won the lottery. Then she posted a picture of him drinking his first of many green smoothies. It really is life-changing and liberating as a parent to not have to worry about whether your child is going to eat tonight's meal. And it's a celebration when they eat something new. And there's actually a technical term for this fear of trying new foods. It's called food neophobia, which sounds way scarier than it actually is. But the thought is that it may be an evolutionary survival tactic. So listen to this. When you think about animals, they are less likely to accidentally poison themselves if they're cautious about trying new foods. So that is what people believe and researchers believe happens with picky eating and children's reluctance to try new foods at this age. It's more of a protective mechanism. So they're not trying to tick us off and upset their parents and push our buttons. They really are doing it for a potential purpose. But whether it's an inherited behavior or not, it still drives us crazy. This fear of new foods typically peaks around ages 2 and 6 and usually fades if the child is given the opportunity to outgrow it. So I will show you a few ways now. As mentioned earlier, about 1 in 4 children continue to be picky into their adult years. So remember those bonuses I mentioned in the beginning? Well, here's another one. I asked moms the same question. What is one food you wish your child would try? The answer is similar to the ones in the comment box. Meat, spinach, eggs, veggies, a few of the biggies. Well, I created a cheat sheet with the 5 foods that most parents want their kids to eat. And then I've included a picky eater friendly recipe idea and a fun way to encourage your kids to try it or at least explore it. So stick around to the end and I will show you how to get your hands on this. So a common question I hear is, how do I get my kids to eat vegetables? Being great parents, we come up with clever ways to get some greens into their diet. But there's one tactic or trick that everyone here has likely tried tonight. So show me as a raise of hands or say yes in the comments if you've done this. Sneaky feeding. A popular strategy. I see all these hands being raised. I'm with you. If I was on video right now, you would see my hands going up as well. This popular strategy is one reason why our kids won't try new foods, and that is being too sneaky with our food prep and our feeding. So I've made the zucchini breads, the chocolate avocado pudding, the cauliflower Alfredo sauce, and by the way, all these recipes are on my blog, but I don't make them with the intent of being sneaky, at least not anymore. I make them because I love experimenting with recipes and giving them a nutrient punch. Sneaking greens into meatballs is a great idea if your child knows they're in there. But you must be thinking, Jessica Seinfeld even recommends this approach and has a cookbook showing us how to be deceptive with our meal prep. Well, the strategy does work if the goal is to get your little one to eat more veggies. What it doesn't help with is the goal of getting our kids to learn to like veggies or even try them. And if our kids outsmart us and see us blending beets into their chocolate cake, trust can be lost and they may write that food off altogether, including their favorite food. So it's something we don't really want to risk. So if we're hiding spinach in the sauce, there's no opportunity for them to learn what spinach is, right? So try these 2 things. First, take your child shopping and then let him or her pick one new food to try every week. It has to be a new food, and you can take them to the produce section or wherever you like and ask them to pick something that you're going to explore. It's not about eating, it's a food that you're going to play with at home. And that gets them involved. That gives them a sense of control, which we talked about in the beginning. And they'll be intrigued to see how this food comes to life at the table. So at home, I then want you to let them help you with the food prep. So simple as pressing the button on the blender, watching you shred carrots when making meatballs, or helping you make rice paper rolls like Sienna is doing here. Because the pressure is off and it's not on their plate, they may actually take a first bite. Then at the table, deconstruct the meal. So many kids, let alone picky eaters, like to keep their foods separate. And I know a few of you have tried this already with the separate dishes. So if I were making a rice bowl, like this one here, I would have one bowl with all of the ingredients mixed. And then I would have separate bowls for each of the individual ingredients at the table. So our kiddos can see what the finished product looks like, because exposure is a big thing. They need to see a food multiple times before they decide to try it. And then they can also just have the rice or just have the carrots and the cucumber. This is actually how Naomi, my middle daughter, discovered mushrooms and has loved them ever since. Oh, and I don't want you to assume they won't like something. So my husband detests mushrooms, as does his family. And, you would assume that kids wouldn't like you. You was surprised when Naomi first tried the mushroom. Now it's her favorite food. Similarly with olives and sardines, things that some adults don't like, but your kids may actually become one of their favorite foods. Okay, switching gears to reason number 3. I would love to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressful or frustrating are meals for you recently? And how long have they been stressful? So just comment in the comment box, 10 being high stress and 1 being no stress, walk in the park, super easy to feed my kids. Okay, I see 8, 10, 11 from Victoria. Oh my, 9 from Christine, 100, 9, 10. Okay, I'm seeing a range here. Most of you are 7 to 10, it looks like, for 20 months. Okay, and it's been going on for a while as well. Guys, I hear you. I used to cry at virtually every meal with my daughter. It was so frustrating, especially being a nutritionist. I knew what she needed and I could not get her to eat. I felt like, of all people, I should know, and my kid should be eating the whole rainbow. It was draining for sure. So I feel your pain, and I'll tell you now, my stress levels are at a 1 or a 2, and I'm not exaggerating. And I want you guys to get there. I want you to know that your meals don't have to be so stressful. Believe it or not, our kids get stressed out too. So putting Kristen, yes, Kristen says 5. I'm looking more to prevent picky eating. And that I really wish I wish I did that. I wish I did it more of a preventive approach, as opposed to, most of us tend to be reactive because we think it's going to pass. And so if you have a little one, or if you have a child who's picky now, and then another child who's younger and just starting solids or just getting into foods, it's a great time to start to do something about it, because at least you can be proactive and be ready when your smallest child is starts to exhibit some picky eating behaviors. You know exactly what to do. So yes, our kids get stressed too, and putting a new food in front of them seems like no big deal to us, but to them it can be super scary. So let's swap places for a moment and pretend that you were in another country and someone put this on your plate. You have no idea what it is, how it tastes, or if it's going to make you ill. And that feeling isn't much different from what our children experience. So eating is actually more complicated than we realize. It's actually more difficult than walking or talking, and it involves all of the senses: odor, taste, touch, sight, and even sound. And depending on the food and the child, eating can put senses into overdrive and be overly stimulating or not stimulating enough. It also requires the use of multiple nerves and muscles. And I know this because Sienna, my first daughter, had some trouble chewing due to low muscle tone and would hold food in her mouth for long periods of time. It took a series of steps to get her to where she is today. And just think, if all of this that I'm sharing worked for my daughter, who was more on the extreme end of picky eating, imagine what it can do for your little one. So the message here is that every child is different, even within the same family, and even among twins. Often one will be a great eater and other maybe the more selective eater. And a child's behavior at the table and willingness to try new foods really comes down to their individual characteristics. So this is Naomi and Sienna, and Naomi, my youngest daughter, could not be more different. She will go to town on a chicken leg, smear chia pudding all through her hair, but Sienna was always one who tended to be more delicate and clean through the process. And they also have their own differences and preferences. So if your child is the more adventurous type, they are more likely to put unfamiliar foods in their mouth without much thought. But if you're sitting with me on this webinar, you likely have a child who's a bit more cautious in life and at meals. Kids are just much more willing to try new things if they're allowed to explore at their own pace. So I want you to take your child's personality into consideration. And if your little one is cautious, I want you to start small, really small. So even offering a slice of melon or a strip of chicken can be daunting for the first time. Instead, cut food into teeny tiny bite-sized pieces and offer just one piece at a time. So one tiny cube of melon is much more manageable than a plateful. And then you can even put it on a toothpick so that they can avoid dirty hands if you have a child who tends to not like to have, get their hands dirty. I've got another tip for you, and it might shock you, but it's one of my favorites. One of the best ways to gain trust in our kids in eating and encourage them to try new food is to remove the fear. So we do this by providing permission to taste food without having to swallow it. And this can be done with what we call a safety napkin or a safety cup. So it's something they can use to spit food into if they don't like it. And at first, they may spit it out right away. Eventually, though, they will progress to chewing it and then swallowing that food. So if we can put manners aside once again and tell our kids when they come to the table, it's okay to spit food out. So if you're going, you have a new food and they don't want to try it, you can say, you can try it. And if you don't like it, just spit it out. Like, make it no big deal, right? So we're not, they don't feel like they're going to get reprimanded if, they're not expressing the best behavior or manners. And I've used this a number of times with families, and it works really well. So reason number 4 is, it might be part of reason number 3, actually, and I might be stating the obvious here, but children are reluctant to try a new food because it's new. No matter what you read about picky eating, the number of exposures it is a popular topic that comes up, and a bunch of numbers float around, but I want to clear that all up for you now. Before I do, let me ask you, how many times do you think a child needs to eat, like actually put a food in their mouth before they like it? So go ahead and comment in the comment box. So here's what typically happens. We offer a piece of salmon and our child turns her head, and then a few days later the salmon comes out again, but our child whips it on the floor. So I see a number of responses coming through. 10, I don't even know what number that is, Michelle. That's more than trill, I don't even know. But it was a lot of zeros, 53, 21, okay. So 2 or 3 or 4 exposures is not enough. And the answer really depends on the child's personality, but it can be as little as 15 times up to dozens of times before they get over that initial resistance and start liking that new food. So if your little one refuses something, salmon or whatever that food is, don't write it off yet. There are ways to help them move a little faster so it doesn't take so many times. But I want to set expectations so that you guys don't get discouraged. Now, this is a super important slide that I want you you all to take in. While the goal for most of us is to get our kids to eat a certain food, maybe it's vegetables or meat or fish, there are a series of steps that need to happen before your child will put that food in their mouth and swallow it. Eating is not a two-step process. This hierarchy of eating includes 6 steps with firstly, tolerating the presence of the food on the table, just being able to see it there and not have a freak out. 2 is interacting with it. 3, they may want to smell it. And then once they get more comfortable, they want to touch the food, eventually tasting it. And the moment we all care about is eating it. Now, these are not always sequential steps, but a child needs to be comfortable with all of them in order to want to eat a new food. And I'll show you how to improve your child's or move your child along and up these steps in my online program, which I'll share with you soon. Well, that's not good. But I wanted you to see it from a higher level. And PowerPoint is shut down on me. Awesome. Okay, let's give it a second here. And I'm going to just slide this over so I can see if there's any questions. Well, this is, okay, here we go. Come on, PowerPoint. My goodness, sorry guys, what's happening here? Give me a second. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we can help with this transition to try new foods by pairing it with something our kids already know and like. So be it condiments, dips, spices, they're all great for this. So what you want to do is serve a favorite flavor along with the food they haven't tried before. This way, when they take that bite, they will taste their favorite dip or flavor first. So it might be ketchup or barbecue sauce or hummus. Now, nutrition is not the priority here. I know ketchup is full of sugar and most barbecue sauces are. The goal here is to help our kids expand their repertoire. I say that even as a nutritionist, I don't make nutrition number one. Otherwise, we will fail when it comes to expanding our kids, especially if they're more sensitive eaters. So don't kick yourself if it's a dip or a sauce or even honey. It's totally okay to offer sweeter flavors. And the research actually shows that when you pair a new food with a sweeter food, that they are more likely to continue eating that food later on without that added honey. So not like they have to have honey every single time or barbecue sauce or whatever that added flavor is. So the first time Sienna tried salmon, it was actually with lemon, and she loves lemon. So she soaked her fish in the juice and she ate a ton of it. And now salmon is actually her favorite without the lemon. I also want to mention that there are no rules. So there's no such thing as eating breakfast only foods or dinner only foods. You can have yogurt as a dip for chicken or have, dip avocado in ketchup. It's totally acceptable. And this is key for kids who are eating better at breakfast and pick at their dinner. So if that's the case, they have fewer opportunities to try meats and other foods because it's not their better mealtime. So be okay with offering dinner foods or lunch foods for breakfast and vice versa. So as I mentioned, one of the 3 myths is that kids should be well-mannered and not play with food. So as long as your child hasn't been at the table for a long period or seems to be getting antsy, I want you to spend 2 to 3 minutes at the end of your next meal playing with any refused foods. So for example, if they refuse asparagus for dinner, then before you clean up, see if you can get them to play with it. So maybe there's a small, medium, and a large piece of asparagus and pretend that they are mom, dad, and a baby. Whatever it is, make it fun and relatable. And for the younger kids or babies, just let them play with it just for a few minutes. And the goal is not to eat it. So just make it fun. We want to get their hands on the food, feel it. The more they touch it and explore it, the more likely they are to put that food in their mouth and much faster. So I'm saving the best for last here with the 5th and final reason why kids are picky. So when our little ones feel the slightest bit of pressure to eat something, they get their guard up. I'm sure we've all witnessed the power struggle. When parents describe their meal times, it's often accompanied with a deep sigh. You can sense that there's not much positivity associated with eating, and there should be, right? Like, we don't get many opportunities to sit down with our family, and right now, I'm sure it's not very, it's not very enjoyable for anybody. But mealtimes, they are meant to be a social opportunity for our families. So partly because we as parents, we are so invested in our kids eating that we are working way too hard to try and get our kids to the table or try to keep them engaged once they're there. Our instinct then becomes to ask a lot of questions. Did you have fun at school? What did you do with your friends? Do you like your broccoli? Why aren't you eating your chicken? You like chicken. Those types of things. But while meals are supposed to be social, we can't rely on our kids to make it so. And that's for a couple reasons. They have to pause their eating to actually respond, so they can't eat. If we ask them whether they like a food, their odds are they will say no and stop eating it. If we say, is your food too hot or too cold? They will say, yes, it is, and stop eating it. And or they're just too young to answer. So instead, you do the talking. Say something like, come and sit with us. Daddy wants to tell you something funny that happened to him this morning. Or did you hear what mommy did today? Kids still think we're pretty cool at this stage, and they want to hear what we have to say. So you do the talking and let them enjoy their meal. And lastly, I want you to smile. Our little ones can sense our frustration and discontent just by the expression on our face. In fact, research shows that even a nursing baby can sense their mother's stress, and in response, their heart rate increases. That's pretty crazy, right? So the reason you're here is likely because mealtimes are stressful, or you don't want to get to a point where they are stressful. And you have a lot of good reasons not to smile. But trust me, I get it. But if you do one thing, this would be it. I want you to take a deep breath before your next meal and just smile, like the biggest smile. You're going to feel ridiculous, but it really is going to make a difference. The research shows it changes our brain chemistry just by smiling. And because the more enjoyable the meal becomes, the better not only will everyone eat, but the better everyone will digest and the more nutrients they'll absorb. So even if your child is eating very little, if they're stressed and eating very little, they're going to absorb much less than a child who is happy and eating very little. Oops, a child just fell upstairs. When our kids sense our frustration or pressure to be at their anxiety rises. And with that, their adrenaline spikes too. When our bodies are in fight or flight mode, digestion is weakened and appetite falters. So it's in our best interest to try and keep the peace at meals and smile. Okay, so there you have it, guys. In the past 30 minutes, we looked at 5 reasons why our kids won't try foods and 10 awesome tips to try tomorrow. And as promised, I'm going to tell you how to get your cheat sheet and all of those tips, but there is more. So I love doing webinars like this because I end up getting emails from parents saying things like, I started to slowly implement the little ideas you provided, and Jacob ate a few pieces of salmon yesterday. It's notes like this that remind me that even though I can't work with every mom, every parent, or caregiver on a one-on-one basis, I can still help them make small changes at home and at meals. Now, I'm not sure why you decided to join me tonight exactly, but I can guess. Maybe you have a little one who won't touch vegetables, or a little girl who only eats a handful of the same meals. Maybe you're worried that you're doing you're worried whether you're doing the right things to set your little one up to have a healthy relationship with food in the long term. If you just want someone who gets your mealtime struggles to show you exactly how to help your child become a better eater, let me introduce you to the Picky Eater Protocol. So this is a 6-week online course with proven step-by-step strategies that help children eat better. It's the course I referenced in the beginning of the webinar, and I'm so ridiculously excited to tell you about it right now. So I only run this program twice a year, and the spring session starts in a few weeks. So what I'm about to share is not theory, it's research-backed strategies and a structured approach that I use at home and with the families I work with one-on-one and on this online program. So I'm the first to admit that, the one-off picky eating tricks don't work with all kids. And I made all the mistakes. But when I realized these were purely short-term solutions and not going to achieve my ultimate goal to ensure that my kids have a healthy relationship with food, I changed our strategy altogether. And I implemented this 6-phase approach. So let me quickly take you through these steps. I'm going to get pretty specific here, so stay with me, and then we'll get to your bonuses and your other surprises. So the term picky eating is thrown around a lot. Like, how many times have you heard someone mention that they have a picky eater? It's actually 50% of parents believe they have a picky eater. It's important to know where your child falls, so that you have confidence, you know that you're using the best approach. And that's what we cover in the first phase of the picky eater protocol. So phase 1 is all about starting with the basics and building a solid foundation to set your family up for enjoyable and stress-free meals. I help you understand where your child falls on that spectrum of picky eating so you know how to respond effectively. I'll give you helpful tools to reduce stress at meals, and you'll also understand how to feed an underweight versus an overweight child the right way. Then in phase 2, we look at how to structure your days and your meals to boost appetite and food intake, and what a typical appetite should look like. You also find out why your child may not be hungry. So what should how much should an average child be eating? And then I share the 3-step process for starting and ending every meal to improve their behavior. Then we look at what happens at the table in phase 3. So you'll get clarity on exactly what role parents must play at meals and what they shouldn't do, along with some of the most common mistakes that parents make at meal times that actually exacerbate picky eating. You'll find out which common phrases parents should avoid at meals and what you should say to encourage better eating. And lastly, we'll tackle those frustrating behaviors like throwing food, getting up from the table, asking for dessert instead of dinner, and so on, so you know how to respond. And as I mentioned, true picky eating is a reality for many families. Up to almost half of typically developing children struggle with some type of picky eating, and that is not a small number. The good news is that picky eating resolves itself for 3 out of 4 kids. So that's 75% of kids who are given the opportunity to grow out of it. So in phase 4, we cover all of the must-have tools that parents should have to improve eating. These are the products I use with kids virtually every day. So we're ultimately looking at how to create a meal environment that optimizes better eating. And part of that is knowing how to deal with and limit distractions. And then finally, how to make food and meals fun. And it doesn't require making happy faces out of your eggs. And it's much simpler than that, but because kids would actually rather play than sit at the table. So I'll give you some tools on how to increase the enjoyment. And then we're getting to the end here with phase 5, which is all about how to prepare balanced meals and snacks that will encourage children to expand their variety. And we'll dig into the 6-step process for encouraging children to try new foods, which I know is a big one for virtually everyone on this webinar, and what every meal should include for balanced blood sugar. I'll show you how to get more veggies on their plate without hiding them, and when to offer beverages for the best absorption of nutrients and best appetite. And I know this is a big one for many of you as well, how to treat desserts the healthy way so that the ice cream and cookies become less desirable. And finally, phase 6, we take it even further and show you how to create meals that are nutrient dense. You'll get a super clear understanding of the most important minerals, vitamins, and other nutrients our kids need for growth, health, and immunity. Plus, you'll get them. Plus, how to get them into their diet. With some really fabulous recipes that are quick and easy. So This is how you turn picky eaters into healthy eaters for the short term and the long term. Now, imagine the feeling of being able to sit at the table, enjoying your own meal, and watching your little one enjoy theirs. Imagine not having to worry about whether they're getting enough protein or nutrition, and not having to make a peanut butter sandwich when they don't eat their dinner. Again, the feeling is liberating. Here's a mom in the Picky Eater Protocol group, the private group, who celebrated or surprised, was having soup for lunch, cabbage soup, and her son Chase surprised her when he asked for a bite, and then another and another. She posted this video of him chowing down on cabbage soup for the first time in our private Facebook group. This was one of the many successes she had since doing the Picky Eater Protocol. It was life-changing for her and other parents who participated. Now, you're probably wondering what this program is exactly, so let me tell you quickly. The Picky Eater Protocol is a 6-week online program that shows parents how to help their child eat better, all step-by-step with research-backed strategies that are simple to implement. The 6 weeks are built around the 6 phases I walked you through, and we also made the program accessible on any device you can watch before bed or while stuck in traffic or on your way home from work. And I know the program is powerful and has done great things for so many families, but I honestly was not expecting this. 100% of moms and dads who participated over the past few years said that they would recommend the protocol to other parents, whether you have a picky eater or not. That's when I knew I had to do it again and again. So here's what you get. For each of the 6 phases, you will be emailed weekly with a couple things. You'll get 2 to 3 short and beautiful videos that are each less than 15 minutes long. They will take you through all the strategies step by step so you know exactly what to do each week and why. You'll get a few cheat sheets and a 1-pager printables that summarize the key takeaways from the videos. You can print them off for later reference or share them with grandparents or your partner. And then there's the optional exercise sheets to help you implement the strategies at home. They each only take a few minutes to complete. And the best part, the extra surprises I will send you. So I'm a mom of 2 or 3. Oh my goodness, wow. You can tell I'm sleep deprived. So I'm a mom of 3 and I know how hectic life gets. You are likely overwhelmed yourself and worry about adding another thing to your list. I totally get it. But I built this program with other busy parents in mind because it's only 6 weeks long and just takes 30 minutes a week. You can access videos from any device at any time, and there's virtually no reading to do. The 6 weekly emails will take you by the hand so you know what's coming each week and what to do. I'll hold your hand through it all. I then provide you with research-backed strategies so you can easily implement them. I just want you to know that I really wouldn't suggest something I haven't already tried with my own kids. I've done the research so that you don't have to. And it's not more work, it's just simplifying what you're already doing. And if you don't think you're ready or have a vacation coming up, not to worry, you have access to everything for a full year so you can pick up where you left off. So I just threw a lot of info at you, so let's just break it down. There are actually 3 ways to work with me in the Picky Eater Protocol. There's a do-it-yourself package, VIP, and VIP+. So with the do-it-yourself, you get all the tools to help you make changes at meals, plus a live group call where you can ask me your questions. Then with the VIP package, which is the most popular, you get all of the above, plus an extra live group Q&A call. And the best part of the program, access to a private, intimate Facebook group where you have access to me every day and to answer your questions. You also get the benefit of seeing how other parents are doing. You'll be inspired, motivated, and never feel alone. And lastly, the VIP Plus package takes the support to another level with a personal 1-hour consultation with a custom protocol. We'll review all your concerns from nutrition to health, meal planning, and picky eating troubles. You will also receive a food journal assessment so you know how to round out your child's meals for optimal nutrition. And because many children have sensory issues at play, this live workshop will give you insight into the role of senses at meals. They are more common than we think. And we also get strategies for addressing them, as well as have access to a pediatric occupational therapist. So you will feel supported on all fronts. And for those of us of you who join us tonight, you also receive the 4-week family meal plan. So with the do-it-yourself package, so let's see. Oh, sorry, there's a 4-week family meal plan. So the total value of each of these packages ranges up to $19.95. That's a ton of value. And for the price, it's tough to put a number on really helping. As for the price, it's tough to put a number on helping our kids eat better or removing that stress that we experience at meals. But you'll likely agree that it's worth much more than the investment. The do-it-yourself package is regularly $447. The VIP package with the invaluable group support and daily access to me is $597. And finally, the VIP Plus with the additional personal and custom support and the sensory workshop is $847. So for all of these options, they can be paid in full. And this is Canadian dollars, by the way. So for all options, they can be paid in full or in 3 installments, starting at $160 per month for 3 months. And you save $50 by paying in full. But I have great news. I am taking $100 off the full payment for the VIP and VIP Plus packages only for tonight. So instead of $597, $497 for the VIP, and then VIP Plus is $747 instead of $847. So in addition to saving $100 on the program, I have another bigger and better bonus for those who join the Picky Eater protocol in the next 24 hours. So I know meal planning with a picky eater is hard. It's easy to fall in a rut with the same recipes. So for 4 weeks, I'm going to save you for the program. You will have your meals planned out with picky eater friendly recipes. It's totally optional, but you will get some inspiration with new recipes to try that take no more than 30 minutes to prepare. I surprised my group with a meal plan a few rounds ago, and they went crazy for it. So I wanted to do it again this time. So this bonus includes a 4-week family meal plan with breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And your shopping list is done for you each week as well if you decide to follow the meal plan. Now, just to remember that this bonus is only available to those who register for the Picky Eater protocol before tomorrow night. So to that point, I should probably show you quickly where and how to register, or where to learn more. So you can head over to pickyeaterprotocol.com, and it looks like this, and you just scroll down and read all the testimonials and what is included. And if you already know this program is something your family will benefit from, you can just click on the pink button here and it will take you to the packages. So once you do, you'll see the 3 options, and you'll see the 4-week meal plan here, which will disappear after tomorrow. It's for those who purchase before tomorrow night. And then below that, you'll see the monthly payment options in the green boxes, and the one-time payment option in the yellow boxes. Those are discounted by $100 for this evening until midnight tonight. So it's incredibly important to me that parents who participate in the program see improvements. And I know they will if they follow along, watch the videos, and implement the strategies. And that is why if within 4 weeks you haven't seen any progress, I would be happy to give you a full refund. Just show me you watched the videos and implemented the steps. And I'm confident you will get a ton of value from this program. So how much will you actually learn? Well, some weeks will be pretty eye-opening, and you might send me a message like this. Emma says, "My mind is blown with this week's video." And that is a good thing. During the program, you might also post things like this when your son eats carrots, snow peas, and raw spinach for the first time. and ask for more. Or when your extremely sensitive child who never shows interest in food finally does. Or when your child makes energy balls with you, eats them and tells you to save more for later. Or when your 2-year-old eats all the kale off your plate. That's right, kale. And or when your little guy who eats no veggies or fruit finally does. These are just a few of the moms who share their successes in the program, and I'm confident you will be too. So in the beginning, I mentioned 2 surprises I had for you, 10 proven tips, summarizing all the strategies I shared tonight, and the top 5 foods parents wish their kids would try with ideas on how to do that. So both of these cheat sheets will be emailed to you tonight. Just check your junk mail. I'm pretty sure that's where they will end up, but they will be there waiting for you. So have fun with those. Okay, so that is a wrap, everyone. I just want to take a moment to look at the comments and see if we have any questions. I know many of you emailed your questions to me, but I know not everyone makes it on the call. So I want to make sure that I'm answering the questions for those who are on right now. And for anyone who's joining for the 9 o'clock session, just sit tight and we will get that going. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so Victoria says, our 3-year-old daughter is very disinterested in food, hardly ever asks for food, and always needs to be prompted to eat dinner and snacks. Once she does eat a variety, it isn't an issue. Once she does eat, a variety isn't really an issue. She eats most things, but doesn't seem to taste them, just eats them so she can move on to the next activity. She also requests to be fed and doesn't like feeding herself. Okay, getting any quantity of food is a challenge. She just won't sit still. It takes much energy to keep her engaged in a meal. So 3-year-olds, it is tough, right? They really aren't built to sit for long periods of time. So part of it is patience, Victoria, but then the other part is really just setting some boundaries and letting her know that, honey, if you get up one more time, then the meal is done, right? Your food goes away. So if our kids know that the food is going to remain there and they can come back, then they're going to take that opportunity to do that, right? So I provide more strategies in phase 3 of the Picky Eater protocol, some specifics on how to tackle this. But basically, what I would suggest for you is, to provide those boundaries, let her know that the food is going away, and then if she does come back, you can opt to give her some more if volume is a concern, but I would just limit it to once. And if she does it again, you can say, okay, if you come back again, if you walk away again, it tells me your tummy's full, and that's fine. You don't have to eat anymore, but the food is going away now. And then you don't bring it out more food for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours later, so that she actually experiences hunger and recognizes the action. Because at the age of 3, they know, and they start to recognize consequences, right? So it's not that we're not, threatening her or anything like that. It's just helping her learn that this is how things work and this is the schedule, so that she can then be more interested in sitting still. And then in terms of variety, she said she gets a variety of things, but you have to prompt her. Same thing, right? So she sits with you. She's used to being prompted. It's a matter of doing other things to prompt them, but not actually saying, one more bite, because then they continue to eat. And like, when do we stop saying one more bite, right? That one more bite becomes 10 more bites very easily. And I hear you, it takes a lot of energy to keep them engaged in a meal. For sure, it does. That's why we just need to, implement the right things. And that's what I cover in phase 3, but I hope those help. Tiffany, any suggestions on how to help students eat foods at school and not just at home, socializing aside? So Tiffany, you can tell me how old students are. So let me just get back to here. Tiffany, so 5-year-old, so she is not eating at school, just at home. So if there's, always something there that your child can eat, I'm assuming this is one person you're talking about, then you've done your job. Sorry, let me just see here. Yes. Okay. And then, so what you can do is, as soon as they get home, so I'm assuming the issue is that they're not eating anything at school. It's because they don't give them enough time at lunches. So, if my daughter doesn't finish something in her lunchbox, it's often because they aren't given sufficient time. So making the lunches and snacks fairly easy, like not a lot of unwrapping or things that become complicated. So I would start there just with simple foods, and then slowly start to include more challenging foods at every lunch. There's always something new, quote unquote, that your 5-year-old is seeing. It's not just favorite foods. And and so that's what I would suggest. So it's really hard for me to answer these questions without having the bigger picture, but I'm trying my best. So if I'm missing the mark, or I'm not answering fully, just let me know. Mel says, I feel like my 7-year-old is too smart for these strategies. I put what we eat on his plate, and he doesn't have to eat it. He won't ever try the veggie or fruit. So you put what we eat on his plate. So one thing I'm going to suggest to you, Mel, and this is what I teach in the course, is to start with an empty plate. So let him decide what goes on his plate. So when we assume, like, we start with, we pre-plate food for our kids, we are essentially telling them, this is what mommy and daddy think you need to eat and how much you need to eat. And often we overestimate what our kids need, or we don't know what their bodies need at that point, because sometimes kids, they need more protein at a certain meal or more carbs, depending on what they've eaten the rest of the day or the rest of the week. So number one is to start with an empty plate, and let him pick. And then there's ways to actually, I know what your next question is probably gonna be, well, he probably won't put those other foods on his plate. And that's where there's other steps that need to happen. And that's that hierarchy that I showed you earlier on in this presentation. And so that's what I take people through in the course, in terms of working them up that hierarchy so that they are more likely to get the food on their plate and then eventually into their mouth. And I wouldn't say your 7-year-old is trying to outsmart you or anything like that. I think it's really just, you're doing a great job by, but trying some of these things, just setting some limitations. And again, I don't know the full situation, but again, just sticking to this whole family style meal with empty plates is a good first step. So sorry, I've got to move quickly through these questions because there's a ton here. So, okay. Another one is, how much time will I need to dedicate to the program? Okay. Yeah, no, I hear you. So I know, so someone's asking about the picky eater protocol. So it's, as mentioned earlier, it's about 20 to 30 minutes per week. It really isn't a lot of time. What's great, it's all videos, so you can watch them while you're cooking or while you're, lying in bed. It's built for busy parents. So it's not a huge time commitment, and it can be broken up. So even if you have a week where someone's sick or you're traveling, you can always catch up because you have access to me in the group for a year, and I'm there to answer your questions, and you have access to the content forever. So I hope that helps. Child will put, let's see here. Kimberly, child will put food in her mouth on her own, but not swallow the food. So what happens, Kimberly, when she puts the food in her mouth and doesn't swallow? She just holds on to it. And if so, then I would say there's probably an oral motor issue at hand. So what you need to do is, I would reach out to me and we can chat about that. Because we need to understand what she's doing with those foods. So it might be that she just doesn't know how to move her tongue in the appropriate way. And especially if she's doing it with certain foods, like my daughter would hold on to egg whites and meat for the longest time. She was like a little chipmunk at the park half an hour later with food in her mouth. So if that's a similar situation, I'm not sure. She chews but pockets it. Yeah. So Kimberly, I think that's an oral motor challenge that she's having. So she doesn't have the skill set yet to be able to manage the textures and types of foods that she's been given. I'll keep going and I'll try to come back. Kimberly, I think you might be commenting below. So Stacy says, because my husband works late, it's just myself and my 3 and 5-year-olds. I'm with you, Stacy. My husband gets home at 7:30 every night. So dinner goes much smoother and we are all happier when I read a book at the same time. Is it acceptable or a bad habit? So, I've got books here that are sticky because the pages are stuck together, because that's how I would get Sienna distracted. It is a form of distraction. It's not the worst. It's not TV. It's I would say one of the better forms of distraction. So that's great. It's more of, can we do other things? Can we have a conversation as opposed to read a book? Because as long as you have to look at what the motive is for the book. Is it to keep things peaceful, or is it to get more food into the kids? And if it's the latter, then I would reevaluate the use of the book, and maybe read a little bit. You can ease off of it. And in the program, in phase 4, I believe we talk about how to remove distractions so that it's not painful for anybody. So there's kind of a phased approach that you can use. So you just judge, how whether that book is actually necessary. But again, it's not the worst thing. It's more of what the goal is. Maya says, Maya, you made it on. I'm glad to see that. What to do to make meal interesting for a 2-year-old if we cannot be eating with him? He goes to bed very early. So what I would recommend, Maya, is that you at least sit with him and have a snack. It is so critical. The research shows that children who eat with a family, in a family setting, have much lower incidences of eating disorders, depression, drug use, alcohol use. It's kind of crazy and it feels like a stretch, but I've seen it consistently. So if you can try to sit with your 2-year-old as much as possible, and even if it's just having a little snack, because kids learn by watching what we're eating. And if they see mom and dad eating something, they're more likely to see it as a safe food, right? Going back to that food neophobia. But if he's eating by himself, then he's definitely not going to want to sit there much longer. You make it interesting by making yourself present if you can make that happen, even if it is just one person. Victoria says, thank you. Michelle, 20-minute lunches starting in the fall. I'm dreading that. Yeah, it's so hard. I know. I actually have plans to talk to the school board, at least in the Toronto district here, for those who are in Canada and Ontario, to have conversations about lunches, because kids are not eating well due to the time restrictions. Unfortunately, I've kind of mastered the lunchbox and snack packing, because I know what kids can eat in that short period. Okay, so Tiffany says she eats the same foods at school, much more limited than at home. So yeah, it could be the time, or the time that she's allotted, or if there's sometimes she's anxious at school, or she's more interested in having, playing. It also depends on what her peers are doing. There's so many variables there, but just to give you peace of mind, like offering a snack right after school and a filling breakfast can give you some peace of mind that she's at least being nourished on the bookends of the day. And again, those are tips that we talk about in phase 6 of the Picky Eater Protocol in terms of how to build a balanced meal and snack. So Nadia, my almost 3-year-old prefers veggies raw. He'll eat whatever he can. Is it terrible to just go with it and save cooking time? Oopsie. So no, so that's fine. That's great that you've got a little one who eats veggies raw, but I would definitely encourage some cooked veggies as well, because you don't want to get to a point where he's 4 years old and only eats raw veggies, because you don't want to have to go to a restaurant or visit friends or family, and then you've got the limitation. So just again, it's going through that hierarchy and helping him get comfortable with cooked veggies. So cooked veggies are very different from raw in terms of their sensory aspects. They're more, they're softer, sometimes wetter, warmer, and depending on the child, it can be something that they try to avoid due to the senses. So yeah, I would say offer cooked veggies, and even get him to help or witness how a raw veggie becomes a cooked veggie, or see that raw veggie in different ways, even just chopping it differently, because you don't want to offer the same thing over and over, because that's where food jags come into play. And a food jag is when a child gets stuck on a food and only eats that food, and starts to, their list starts to whittle away. Erica, my 2.5-year-old hates dips and sauces, having a hard time making veggies, proteins more enticing for him. Will only eat crackers, Rice Krispies, and fruit. Is there a way to get him to eat more sauces? So yes, I hear this often. That's why I mentioned I'm going to guess that he might like maple syrup or honey. I know it's a crazy thing to suggest, but that might be an option for dips, to include something like that periodically, or just drizzle it on top of certain things. We only make yeah. So what I would do as well is you just get him to play with the sauces. So do some finger painting with sauces or dips, so that he's getting his fingers in it and getting used to it that way, because we can't jump from not liking or seeing anything and then going to eating it. If I leave and by the way, guys, I'm just going to answer a few more here because we're getting long and I don't want to run an hour and a half. I've got a ton of questions here, but okay. So Mary's asking, the $100 off on the Picky Eater protocol. So that expires tonight on just the VIP and VIP Plus packages, Mary, before midnight Eastern Standard Time. Now, I know there's quite a few folks from Australia and the UK that either are on the call or hoping to join the call, so they may miss that. But if you are in those countries, just message me and we'll try to figure something out and just make it, because I know it's 3 a.m. in the morning for some of you. Okay. If I leave my 2-year-old son to dictate how much he eats, he ends up waking up in the middle of the night screaming because he's hungry. And of course, it would only be milk at that time of night. Something he doesn't mind having during the day. Okay. Makes up in the middle of the night. So I would need to understand then, sorry, who's asking this question? What are dinners looking like? What's happening in terms of why is he eating dinner? Is he not? Is he getting a bedtime snack? So hard to answer that question without knowing. And again, it's one of those things where if he's being offered milk at night, it becomes a thing that's expected. And I don't want you guys to get into the habit of having to wake up in the middle of the night because he's just used to drinking. That's when he's getting his calories. So I would just need to know the bigger picture. Kimberly, if it's a food with sugar, she gulps it down. It's often because foods with sugar are often much easier to eat. Our kids are going to opt for foods that are, so they take the path of least resistance, right? So if it's an easy food, that's the one they're going to try and eat. And they're tasty too, right? So it's easy and it's easier to manage. So that's why. What about using junky food, Michelle asked, to eventually get to healthy food? I heard an RD recommend this. So chicken nuggets to get to chicken. Yeah. So it's something called food chaining, or it's kind of part of the food hierarchy that I teach. So we do an exercise in phase 5 and phase 4 of the protocol where we go through your child's favorite foods and we work up a hierarchy to get them to expand their favorites beyond. You have to be careful with that though, because you don't want to mess with a current favorite food that they then, let's say if you do it differently, then they decide, let's say they love pancakes and then you make it different, then they decide they don't like pancakes at all anymore and you lose a food. So there's a certain way to do it, but yeah, that can be helpful. What about Oreos to get to nut butter? I don't know how that works. I'm gonna guess replace the white. Okay. Yeah, I think it could work. God, that feels like a lot of work, but there might be there's better ways to do that. Sure, that's worth trying. As a nutritionist, I don't always say that nutrition comes first, but there can be more healthful ways. Yeah, and doesn't their palate adapt to the junk? Yeah, you don't really want to start with sugar unless you have to, and packaged snacks. So yeah, there's other suggestions, other ways to do it. Okay, so guys, I have to stop it there because you guys have to get to bed and I've got another one to jump on. So thank you everyone for joining me tonight. And if I've missed any of your questions, I know I have, here, please just send me an email. And I also want to say, for those who've stuck on with me, I am going to, I'd love to give the first 3 people who email me at info@daniellebins.com. Just put in the subject line a free consult, and I'd love to jump on the phone with you for 20 minutes for a free consult if you'd like. So that's for the first 3 people. And yes, thank you for your time. Ask me your questions if you have any by email. And also, don't forget the $100 off the Picky Eater Protocol ends tonight. And I know many of you would benefit from it. If you have any questions about the program, please let me know. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks for your patience with the technology as well. Good night.